I didn't play my best at the US Open qualifier. So I got the owner of Decade Golf, Scott Fawcett, to expose exactly what I did.
I mean, this game is about bogey avoidance. It is not about making more birdies. You do have a governor on you of how low you can go.
What do you think I should personally work on?
What would you tell me if I just told you everything?
Get your popcorn or your favorite snack. So let's get into it. I'm super excited about this. Him kind of just exposed my game a little bit, because that is the way to improve, is to kind of get exposed and to see your weaknesses so we can learn from the man himself that created Decade. If you don't know what Decade is, it's about picking out the right targets. And at the end of this video, he tells me exactly what I need to work on.
Yeah, I checked out your video that you did on the US Open qualifier and everything. I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I just kind of got the gist. The whole YouTube thing is so weird to me. And I guess it's probably because I'm A, old, and B, a solid player. Anywho, so, I mean, congrats. Looks like you're building a little following and everything. So congrats on that. And
first, I'll just kind of talk about your story in a short form. Kind of how did you come upon Decade?
So it's funny. I've always thought I'm pretty good at math. And now after having spoke at MIT's Sports Analytics Conference, I'm like, oh, they're good at math. I'm really good at logic.
Yeah.
So as I started playing a lot of poker and learning like poker math and strategy and everything, I just started applying it to golf. And then in 2011, when they first released the strokes gained putting, I was like, that's really interesting. And first of all, I was like, I wrote a thread, thank God, 3 years before Mark Brody's book came out, that was just titled, "Is Drive for Show, Putt for Dough Really True?" on an online poker forum. Just like, you could just see very quickly, I'm like, that's not, you could see that it's more about ball striking just from the strokes gained putting statistic.
Yeah.
And so then once they released the full catalog, I just knew I could take the data set of a shot pattern launch monitor data and combine it with strokes to hole out and come up with something. It was just one of those deals where I'm like, there's something here and I have no idea what it is I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Just started trying to figure something out. And then 2014, I was going to use it. And I got a cortisone shot on my right elbow, and the doctor paralyzed my right arm 2 weeks before the Texas Amateur. And obviously it came back to life 2 days later, but he told me, he's like, you really can't play golf for like 6 months while just whatever I did kind of heals itself. You don't want to get nerve damage.
Yeah.
I just spent 6 months doing this project. So I called Zalatoris up. He was just a junior golfer at my home club that I played a lot with. Told him to let me caddy for him. Caddied for him there. He wins. I mean, his first big win of anything.
Yeah.
And then caddied for him at the US Junior the next month. He won. That made the SMU coach, who I've known since junior golf, say, I don't know what you're doing with him, but I think Bryson needs it. So I went and taught it all to DeChambeau 2 months before he won the NCAA championships in US Amateur. And at some point, it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like, now, at that point, now everybody who is young wanted to learn. And now at this point, I only get players that are playing bad on tour, where they're just like, well, let me try something new. Maybe I'm just thinking wrong. So that's how I've accidentally become a stats and strategy guru.
So you've been doing it for a decade now.
It's literally, well, I'm trying to get Golf Digest to write an article, A Decade of Decade.
Why did you do this? Was it for you, or was it for just the game of golf?
It was 100% for me. I want to win the US Mid-Am and play in the Masters.
That's your goal in life?
The reason I played professional golf was to play in the Masters. I don't know what it is about Augusta, and like, that's my memory as a kid growing up and wanting to play professional golf. It wasn't to play in Ryder Cups. It wasn't to win a US Open. It was just to simply play in the Masters. Which obviously means you've done something. So I guess maybe there's an ancillary, but it was completely for my game. And I say this all the time, but it'd be funny, like, you never know the counterfactual in life, which just means, like, instead of choosing door number one, you chose door number two. Like, what would have happened the other way? I truly believe that if I had been playing in the State Am, like, I probably would have shot like 70 the first round or whatever and been like, I don't know, I guess. Like, I wouldn't have been excited about it. But watching Will, who had struggled for so long as a junior, I mean, he qualified for the US Junior at 12, 13, and 14. This kid has been legit since he was born.
Yeah.
But he couldn't figure out how to play. He's always, since he hits it so good and putts it a little sketchy, he was always trying to force birdies with his approach shots instead of just like hey, let's just play the par fives well. We're going to accidentally hit some good approach shots and get some looks at birdie. But more than anything, we're going to avoid bogey. And it's like, I felt like that was the script before we went out for the Texas Am. And I truly believe that I would not have done anything with it if it had, I know I wouldn't have done anything with it if it was just me.
Yeah.
And so caddying for him, he was like 1 under through 6, just making up a number there. And I was just like, this kid has hit every single shot exactly where I've told him to so far. I'm pretty sure if I weren't here, he would be like 3 under.
Yeah.
And finished the round, he shot like 67 or 8 and was leading. And I drove home and I swear I was thinking, he would have shot 61 if I wasn't caddying. Like,
Yeah.
but in hindsight, the only stat I didn't track, I had his proximity, I had his greens and regulation and all that stuff, but I didn't track how close he was to pin high.
Oh, okay.
And so, like, even though he was hitting, and I'm being facetious-ish, but like he was hitting every shot directionally where I told him to, he might not have been hitting at the exact distance I told him to. And knowing Tiger stats as well as I do, there's no chance he was. He
Yeah.
probably would have shot the same score by firing directly at every flag. This
Yeah.
is what's hard is unless you get inside of like 8 feet, it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, obviously it's closer's better, but unless you get it inside and really tight, whatever, you're probably going to two putt it. I mean, so I'd
Yeah.
rather you be 15 feet than 20 feet, but I really don't care that much.
Yeah.
Especially for a guy like Will who doesn't putt it that well. But so then the next round he came out, he's nervous, he's got the lead, he's never been in a position like that before, and he hit it awful. I mean, and he shot 70.
Yeah.
Then I was driving home and I was thinking, that would have been at least 75, like not facetiously. If I weren't there, he would have shot at least 75, potentially in the high 70s.
Yeah.
Because he would have started unraveling and freaking out and trying to force things to get it back. The stuff we all do where you're like, well,
Oh, yeah.
I'm 2 over. I got to get some back. It's like, kind of by definition, you don't have your best stuff today. Now you're
Yeah.
just going to get it back. Like, it's not how
Yeah.
it works. And one of my favorite quotes, I wish I'd taken a screenshot of this from Facebook 7 or 8 years ago. This college coach said, I had one of my players make the turn at 3 over. And he said, don't worry, coach, I'm going to get some back. And he goes, just stop giving them away. And
Yeah.
like,
For real.
so subtle and so brilliant. I mean, this game is about bogey avoidance. It is not about making more birdies.
Yeah.
And that was something I could tell in my gut from the data, and I could tell in my gut from watching Will. But then after creating the Decade app, and now we've got obviously hundreds of thousands of rounds entered, your scoring average drops exponentially more by avoiding bogey than it does by making more birdies.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
just period.
That is true. And so par is your friend.
I mean, but this is the funny thing is like a 400 yard on the hole of par 4 on the PGA Tour plays with 3.99. It's basically where they average par. Every hole longer than 400 yards, which is basically all of them out there.
Yeah.
If you make a par, you're gaining strokes against the competition. You eventually shoot a lower score by gaining more strokes. And so this is where it's a hard one for people to wrap their head around. Making par is getting you further under par.
Yeah.
Once you start thinking in fractions of a shot. I need to be on the PGA Tour, I need to be 12 to 14 shots clear of the field average in order to win. Well, yeah, I get it. I need to get birdies to get to a lower number, but by making a 4 on a hole with a scoring average of 4.1, I'm accumulating a tenth of a shot towards that 12 to 14. I don't care what the winning score is.
Yeah.
When Zach Johnson won the Masters, you know, the announcers like to say he didn't go for a single par 5. I'm like, isn't it an interesting point to the storyline that nobody did that week? He won at 1 over par.
Yeah.
He didn't win at 20 under. The weather was miserable. So like, it's not interesting to say Zach Johnson won without going for a par 5. Like, that's the only way he could win that golf tournament. Like, and that's, again, I know I'm just going through the videos here, but like, winning requires luck. Zach Johnson was explicitly lucky to win the Masters solely because of the weather. And I'm sure I could say that to his face and he would get mad, but it's like, go sit in a closet, man, and really think about it. Are you getting to 20 under on that course like DJ did? Because you still can't get to the par 5s, man. You needed to handcuff DJ in order to win that golf tournament. So point being, he won at 1 over. He was 14 shots clear of the field average.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what you are relative to par. You want to be relative to the field.
Yeah.
Ideally, you don't even think about score. Like that's the optimal way to go
Yeah.
about it.
So you're just staying in the moment and you're just hitting shots.
Well, that's a great way of saying it. Yes. I mean, I used to think whenever again, I'll say this 1,000 times, when I was playing professionally in my 20s, I used to think that you got to stay present. It was like just psychologist mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean? What that means is you're not thinking about the bogey you just made, the stupid double on a par five. Like that's in the past. If you're present, you can't think about that.
Yeah.
The flip side is what's the leaderboard? What's the cut line? That's all future thinking.
Yeah.
So staying present, that's what it means. It means not thinking about what you've done, not thinking about what's coming up. You say, what do you think about it? You run the decade script over and over again. How far is this shot? Perfect. I'm gonna get my baseline number. What's the surrounding hazards? Perfect. I'm gonna make this kind of a modification. What's the wind? Perfect. I'm gonna tighten that in just a little bit more. Now I've chosen a target. And now I'm just on the driving range hitting my 8-iron like I would at the white flag out there, except for I'm in the middle of the 18th fairway trying to win the Masters.
So you say with a driver, block practice mostly. So I definitely believe in that. So
I mean, this is a funny one to me that I have to argue about, and it is just I'm so over the argument. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Golf is the only sport where you're not looking at it's not reactionary. You're not looking at the target. Yeah. Baseball, I've got to be able to swing in different areas. Basketball, I'm doing a turnaround fadeaway. I got a pretty good idea where the basket is as I'm turning around, but it's just I'm reacting to it. I mean, you again, I'm sure these guys have a much better feel for exactly where the basket is. But at the end of the day, they don't see it until the last second, and then they're launching it. In golf, you're not looking at the target, and importantly, your ball position really matters for what shape you're going to hit. There's just more to golf. You have to have consistent setup, consistent orientation to the target. That's all best done by just laying an alignment rod down and going right through the bag. You're training your eyes. So when I look up, my eye goes exactly to the point that I think it should. There is no, what was my target again? Like it's just bam, bam, go. Just randomly try to draw a shot. And kind of like the talking point on that is, if you're considering hitting the opposite shot of your stock shot, and the only reason you can come up with is to get a better look at birdie, that's not a good enough reason. I never thought about it this way. I'm really only ever going to go to my opposite shot to ride the wind. Yeah. It would never be to hold it into the wind. Yeah. It's funny how I've never thought of that before. That's the only time I would ever do it.
In the US Open qualifier, I hit it really well off the tee. I hit 12 out of 13 fairways. So I only missed one fairway.
That's awesome.
But what I shot did not reflect hitting pretty much every fairway. During the round, which is probably a bad habit, but I was sitting there and I was like, how the heck am I shooting what I'm shooting while I'm hitting every fairway?
Now, here's tip number 1. Let's pretend I just said that to you. What would you say to me?
You got to stay present.
I mean, every time somebody asks me to look at their stats or anything like that, I'm like, let's have a learning experience here. What would you tell me to work on by looking at your stats? And they get it right every single time. When the pain of what you're doing exceeds the pain of making a change, you'll make the change. Sitting on the fairway just freaking out, your mind's going faster and faster. I'm 2 over, I should be 1 under. Yeah. Okay, it's not relevant.
So I was on hole 6, or I was 2 over through 6 holes, and I was like, man, I'm hitting it pretty good.
How is it possible I just guessed your, like it just...
Oh yeah.
Before. I just told you exactly what happened. I'm not guessing. And I only know it because I've done it. I never figured it out. I don't know if it's just because I'm finally 50, less testosterone. I don't know what it is, but finally it's like, oh, that's just not helpful.
How long do you think it really would take me to kind of feel like...
It's a spectrum of total idiot and Tiger Woods. Yeah. You're just constantly working towards there. You really should be a member of this thing for as long as you want to play competitive golf, because you have to go back and watch the tutorial content. It's like when someone putts bad, they're going to go practice their putting.
Yep.
My can joke, and I just feel so silly always saying this because I feel like everyone has heard me say this 1,000 times, but it's just true. Like if you feel like you should have shot lower every time you play, you're either not as good as you think you are, or you made mental and strategic errors. Like there is nothing else it can be. You need to have 20 or 30 minutes of reflection after a round. That is practice. It
Yep.
doesn't seem like practice because you're just sitting in a room thinking,
Yeah.
but that is what's going to help you not do this again in the future.
It was 195 yards. And so, as you can tell, the flag is over here.
I mean, to
Is
me, just looking at it, this looks like a pretty standard green. It looks a little maybe shallow depth wise, but it looks like it's about 23 or 4 yards wide ish. You should be just aiming at the dead center of this green directionally.
I started my target right at the flag. Like not my target, but my where
Your
I
shot.
started. And so I was trying to fade it. I hit a 4 iron. I mean, it hit the top of the lip and rolled back in. Do you think that it would have been better to be long of this pin than to be in that bunker?
Well, what's your carry? So, what was your carry on the bunker?
It was
You
probably
said it
a
was 15 yards on there, so like 180,
190.
195. What's your next club? A 3 iron or a hybrid?
It's a hybrid.
And how far does it carry?
210, 220.
Well, first of all, that's a pretty big gap between those two clubs.
4 iron's probably like 195, probably carry, and it probably rolls out 205. So
I mean, that's
then,
probably then, like, because again, walk me through this because I thought earlier you said it was about 15 yards on the green and it was 195, which would be like 180 to the carry the bunker, 195 to the pin.
yeah,
In that scenario, then I would have no problem with a 4 iron. I mean,
okay.
again, as long as the pin was about 12 or 15 yards past the bunker.
Thought I hit it pretty good, but with it not fading, if it would have faded, it would have gotten onto the green.
Yeah, but it also might not have carried as far because of having a little more side spin. It's a hard shot. First of all, it's a long iron.
Yeah,
I mean, whether Zalatoris is hitting a 7 iron from there or you're hitting a 4 iron, like long irons are hard to hit. Typically, people in their longer irons, they don't have them gapped very well. To me, it just doesn't sound like you've got your gapping very good in the bag overall.
so do you think I should get higher swing speed?
That wouldn't hurt you most likely.
Driver wise, probably around 108 miles
I
per
literally
hour.
had that sitting in my hand
108.
before you said it, which is fine. I mean, again, but you do have a governor on you of how low you can go with that club head speed. Which again, I assume you're a good player. You know, if that's going to be your next step if you want to keep getting better. Is definitely adding speed. What people mess up when they're trying to search swing speed is you practice with that. I'm going to try to pump one up there, and so you go 112 or 113. But then
Yep.
you swing your 108, 109. But as you keep on practicing swinging faster, that's going to bump up a mile or two.
Creep
And
up.
then
Yeah.
it's going to just drag your gamer.
Okay. Well, that's good advice. Need to get longer. Get longer, Luke. This par four, I had 180 and it was kind of down the hill, so I hit a 5 iron. You can tell the flag is way up here, and this is
Mhm.
where I was putting from down left. So I think I had 75 feet. OB down the
Yeah,
right
right's
side.
dead. I
Do
have no
what?
problem with where you're putting from right here.
You don't mind this?
No. What's
Okay.
the alternative? Being in the bushes or out of bounds or whatever's other right? Like you happen to pull this shot, I would assume, obviously.
Yeah, I hit that
The
straight shot
the
again.
which has a 10 or a 15% chance of happening.
Yeah.
But you also have a 10 or a 15% chance of missing this shot right, which would then be the ones that are out of bounds. Like it's just inconvenient. You happen to pull it over here. You're letting
Yeah.
the result of three putting, I'm assuming, about to happen,
Yeah.
impact. You're questioning the second shot. This is a pretty good shot. I mean, honestly, hitting the green with a 5 iron, like it's not a bad shot. But the only alternative to that is to get a little bit more aggressive on your second shot. But then if you happen to push it,
Yeah. It's bad.
you're that 10 or 15% of the shot that happens right,
Yep.
you're just done. I mean, and again, if you take some time and go back to the scoring average on this hole, I'll guarantee this hole played at 4.2 or something.
4.41.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like I didn't want to be silly and say something like 4.4. From here, the greens look pretty quick to me. They're kind of shiny.
Yeah.
I doubt you get to play on really fast greens very often.
No.
Let's get crazy and say you jammed this thing either 8 feet past because you didn't know your speed control, or you were over cautious thinking it's way too fast and left it about 8 feet short.
Probably 6 feet short.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming if you're in a small town in Georgia, you don't get to play on the fastest greens on a daily basis.
I think it was 170 yards into the wind, and there was a bunker short, and then a hazard short of that. I was between a 7 and a 6 iron. I can hit my
Where was the
seven.
pin? How about distance wise? Was it towards the front, towards the back?
It was more back left. I hit another one of those straight shots. I don't know what it was going on with the straight shot that day, but it's funny because like as I talk here to you, I kind of am figuring it kind of
Yeah,
out. So,
that's the point.
yeah, because like as you said before, if I would have hit a fade, it would have had more spin and it would have probably gotten in the wind more. Because I mean,
Yeah.
I went with the
Well, this goes to shot patterns tilt long left to short right for a right-handed player. I don't care if you're playing a fade or a draw. Because the left side of your shot pattern is where you squared your face more than you intended to your path. That's
yeah.
why the ball went left, again, regardless of what your shape is. So when you said, I hit this one pretty straight, that shot should be in the long left portion of your shot pattern.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say it was a good shot or a bad shot. Like I just
Yeah.
hate, but like that's kind of where that shot should finish.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess okay, I learned that. So I
Hot
guess
pull.
that's
That's what we
just
used to call it. I don't know if they still call it that out on tour. Like, oh, I just hit a hot pull.
yeah. And so
Which one of those
no,
two do you think goes longer?
it's too late. Dang it.
It's not dang it. I mean,
I mean, I
it's just
learned.
yeah, it's just well, but what could you have done different? Oh, I mean, in post analysis, oh, that makes sense. But like on
Yeah.
the course right there,
And
you were
I was
between 6 and
expecting it.
7. You were into the wind. I think you probably chose, again, without being there, you probably chose the right club. You just
Yeah.
didn't hit a great shot. This is the learning and growth process, man. You
Yeah.
lather, rinse, repeat, and but this is what you're putting in the effort here to actually get better. Like this is good, man. I mean, most
Yeah.
people like I just was oblivious when I was in my 20s playing professionally, just like totally oblivious to, hey, how about try to think through this stuff rather than just trying to focus on getting mechanically better.
Yeah.
Let's actually put some effort into the other aspect of the game rather than just reading a sports psychology book
Yeah.
and just like, okay, I read it.
I want it a lot more because a few years ago, like I had the best summer I probably ever had was I think my stroke average on tournament scores was it was a 72.5.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I mean, I was like, that's pretty good for just an amateur golfer and just
Absolutely.
traveling around and
As
playing
a
on.
scoring average, because again, like that's not what handicap is. Like as the scoring
Yeah,
average, is great. I do believe if you got a bell curve of potential scores. So let's say for you, like what do you think the low end of yours is? Like 67 or 8?
yeah,
About an 8 or 9 shot window is usually about correct. So let's call it 67 to 76. What we don't want to do, what'd you shoot in this US Open qualifier?
82, man.
There you go. Do you think that was because you played bad or you got out there and started overthinking, freaking out, getting frustrated,
A
trying to
downward
force things in the back?
spiral, man.
You should have shot like 75 or 6,
Yeah,
probably.
hell
I
yeah,
mean, I know you're like, I drove it well. Like, well, that's a huge part of the game, but then there's more to it than just that, obviously.
yeah,
So, yeah, you did a lot good, but then you took a 74, 5, or 6 and you tried to force it into a 70 in order to advance. You should become oblivious to score. It can only bring emotions into it. If you're going deep that day, it can only bring, oh my God, I want to get this to the house. And if
yeah,
you're not going well, it can only bring, I want to get this back. Like you're
yeah.
bringing emotion into it.
Kind of to end it out, like, what do you think I should personally work on? I mean, I know you don't really know my game like that, but
I'll turn the table on you. What would you tell me if I just told you everything?
definitely, I feel like I need to get a little bit longer. Course management needs to tighten up,
We want
and
to get longer off the tee. We want to get better speed control in our putting. We want
yeah,
to get out of the motion of what you are relative to par. This is where it's hard. And talking with some of the good guys, it's hard to post a score on YouTube. You seem like a really nice guy. So
yeah.
you probably don't have many haters rooting against you, although it's YouTube and there's nothing but psychopaths.
There'll be a few.
Yeah. And it's hard to not be like, I don't want to shoot 82 and give these guys a bunch of fodder to make fun of me with. Like, trust me, I've got about half the world hates me and about half the world loves me. Anyone who's rooting against you, like, by definition doesn't like you. I mean, who cares? Like, okay, you don't like me. Got it.
Yeah.
Why don't you go mess with somebody else? But then just stop thinking about score, stop thinking about results, stop thinking about your scoring average, stop thinking about, I really want to qualify. The only thing Decade is, process-wise, is you run through that process to find your ultimate target. And aside from that, it's all the mindset. So again, a meditation practice to start recognizing, this is the spiral I normally go down. I'm starting to panic a little bit here. I'm starting to freak out a little bit here. I enjoyed it. It looks like you get a decent amount of views and everything. If you want to do, I'll give you a promo code if you want. You don't have to if you don't want to. I don't care. I'm just trying to help you.
I appreciate you, man. And
congrats and good luck to you. Thank you.
Good luck in the US Open quali.
I appreciate it.
Sounds good. So that was a lot of information. The big takeaways I got from it were, yes, I need to get a little bit longer so I don't have as many long irons. I also think another thing I need to work on, getting my golf game emotionless. I'm just out there, I'm hitting shots, and that's it. It seems so simple, but it's so hard. And also just gapping my clubs correctly and working on speed control. And you know, my speed control was pretty good. I had 1 3-putt for the day, but hey, shout out to Scott for coming on because that was a lot of great information. If you want to check out Decade, check it out below. I think he said it's like 30% off if you use this discount code. And you know, this is the first time I've bought the program. If you want to try it out, just use the discount code and you guys will get it cheaper for what I got it for. So that's funny. But hey, what I'll do for you, because you're a sandbagger. So I love you guys and I'll see you in the next video. Let's go.
Hey, Bill, I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a sticker. She picture perfect, so I told him I'm a flicker.